Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking all about Disney Plus at D23 Expo. We're going to be talking about its launch in the Middle East and North Africa. We're going to be talking about some problems in France. Plus, we'll be sharing our thoughts on some of this week's big new releases, including Kenobi, Miss Marvel, and much more. So we might as well just jump into the big one. D23, they have announced the panels and presentations. So last week they announced that Disney Plus Day is going to be taking place on the day before it, which is the 8th of September. And they were going to have some special shows and movies like Pinocchio, special offers and things like that. Now confirmed for the 9th, 10th, and 11th in Anaheim, California for D23. So what they've done is they've announced the panels. So I'll just go through them quickly here now. So on the Friday at 10:30 a.m., we're going to be getting the Disney 100, which is basically kicking off the 100th celebrations of Walt Disney. And also there's going to be a Legends thing where they give it's basically like a Hall of Fame kind of thing. So that one should be fun. There could be a few announcements. I'm not expecting much. I mean, if they were going to announce some maybe legacy content plan of what they were going to do, maybe I wouldn't be at all surprised if, over the 100 years they're going to start releasing stuff like from the library. The amount of lack of stuff we've got, that would be a nice little announcement to kind of do at that event.
Yeah, we keep coming up against the fact that there's a lot of legacy content that's just not coming up, and people keep asking for it. I know a lot of it is niche, not a huge audience for some of them, but not a huge audience doesn't mean no audience, and it'd be a nice little announcement.
I think also the fact that we've not really seen anything very much for about 3 to 6 months, which would indicate to me that they're hoarding stuff. And so maybe the Disney 100 is their way of doing that one there, but no guarantees on that one. Later that day at 3:30 p.m., they're going to be doing a special presentation for Disney Live Action, Pixar Animation Studios, and Walt Disney Studios, which will be giving an update on theatrical and Disney Plus titles from those divisions. So we'll see studio heads, filmmakers, cast members on stage together for the inside scoop of some of these most exciting titles. Again, we do not know yet if they're going to be live streaming these or if they are just going to be putting out tweets telling us what's going on. Got to remember, while it would be nice for it to be live streamed and they might put out some videos afterwards, remember everyone that's there has paid money to be there. There's about 7,000 arena seat for this particular panel. There's probably 20, 30, 50,000 people that's paid to go into the event. So that's why it might not. And also they sometimes show off stuff that doesn't necessarily they want out there yet.
And sometimes what will end up happening is they will live stream the event, but they'll live stream the announcements. And then if they have a trailer or a behind the scenes thing, they will cut that off from the live stream, kind of to make the people who are going there feel like that their money is well spent, while also letting people at home not feel like they're missing the announcements. And normally the trailers will end up in a bootleg YouTube. I encourage people not to watch those, not because they shouldn't watch them, but because the quality is so horrendous that you don't even know what you're watching.
And I am someone that has watched multiple D23 presentations through Periscope when that was a thing, and because you basically was the only way you could watch it. But yeah, so that's the Friday's event. So on Saturday at 10 a.m. we're getting a joint presentation for Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm with filmmakers, celebrity talent, and surprise guests appearing on stage to give us a behind-the-scenes look at what some of the anticipated films, specials, and series. And attendees will see exclusive footage and be among the first to learn what's in the works. So probably most of the stuff we already know about. Later that day at 3:30 p.m., there will be a Disney-branded television show, which will include look at upcoming Disney Plus specials, including National Treasure, American Born Chinese, and the Santa Claus. There'll also be some special talent appearances, never before seen sneak previews of original content for Disney Plus, Disney Channel, and Disney Junior. Then on the Sunday at 10:30 in the morning, there'll be a Disney Parks Experiences and Products panel. That's actually usually one of the ones that a lot of Disney fans are happy about, because it's about the theme parks, the cruise lines, products, and basically this is the big one. I mean, there could even be a little announcement or two in there as well. Maybe they could announce and if they're going to do some Disney things, they could do some stuff there. But I'm not expecting much that day. No. And then later at 4:15 to close the show off, they're doing a Disney Princess concert featuring a number of talented people. So that's kind of the lineup. And I think this is the way to look at this now. Is now we know this is the basic lineup. There's probably going to be some other little panels and stuff in different stages about other Disney Plus originals and stuff. That's what's happened in the past. But we now know the main presentations. This should also indicate what people should expect from Disney Plus Day on the Thursday. They've laid out their panels. That's when they're going to make those big announcements. They're not going to make it. There might be some little ones on the day, but now we know basically a 4-day Disney weekends of news coming out. So expect a lot of news for it. But I'm not expecting Disney Plus Day to have so much. Now we know where the panels are going to be. They've changed it from last time they did it, where there was a Disney Plus panel and a movies panel. They've split it up now more into like these, you're together, and you're together, rather than bundle them all in together. And in some ways, it's less about like less of a spread between like movies and Disney Plus. Now it's like, oh no, it's one or t'other. You know, it's not separating Disney Plus up anymore. Now it's just doing it by the studios rather than by the output.
Yeah, and we'll see how effective that is. The other thing that's changing this year, of course, is the queue system. In years past, if you wanted to get to those morning panels, which were some of the big ones, you literally had to camp out overnight, sometimes waiting even for the midday ones up to 6-7 hours if there was one you really wanted to. This time I understand it to be entirely on your phone with like a mobile check-in kind of thing.
I think it's going to be like lottery. You put in what ones you want to see and then it will give you, so there's no more sleeping out overnight. They want to try it so you know what you're getting into beforehand. And then if you're one of the preferred people as well, there's a special seated area as well. It's going to be interesting. I think the general idea is they do not want everyone sleeping out overnight. In a post-COVID world, it's not ideal, and also in some way you will then know everyone that's going to D23 will be able to pick which ones they want to go and see. They'll probably will be announcing soon the other presentations. Usually those are less in demand, but you still can.
Right.
And I think it's the same with merchandise, because I mean, there's going to be tons of Disney Plus merchandise and stuff there. I mean, I've already got my pin ready to go.
I opted to not get any of the merch up front, but there's normally a shop that's for D23 only. I got actually one of my favorite shirts from there. It's got Ahsoka on the front of it, and it's a super comfortable shirt from the Her Universe line, actually.
I'm not joking. I am actually taking a second suitcase just for merch. That's literally my plan, because I can do this time. And so therefore this time I was just like, you know what? I'm going to chuck in my old backpack that I used to take backpacking around the world, chuck that in for clothes, and the next suitcase is going to be, and that's my plan, because I know there's going to be lots there. But at least now we got an idea of what's going on. It probably also is a good indication that Marvel won't be at San Diego Comic-Con in the same fashion. I still think they're going to be doing something there. I mean, there's still some stuff to show, like maybe She-Hulk or Iron Groot, and maybe even like the trailer for Black Panther, because in some ways D23 is a little bit too late for that. Maybe especially for She-Hulk and Iron Groot, because that's out before D23. So I wouldn't be at all surprised, but I do not think there's going to be a big Hall H presentation at San Diego Comic-Con. They're holding it back for D23 now.
We'll see. It might not be a Hall H preview, which is of course the big one. That's like the biggest hall available at San Diego, as far as I know. But there are different audiences for the two conventions. There's overlap, obviously, but the people who are going to San Diego Comic-Con and the people who go to D23 are there for different reasons. Mm-hmm. And San Diego has kind of become the de facto blockbuster announcement place, or teasers or trailers or previews. And I don't think Disney is going to just flat out skip that. Now, they might save their energy. They might not go for Hall H. They might have smaller screenings. Here's a preview of this show, or here's our trailers over here. But they cannot afford to miss San Diego when it's going to be where everything else is going to be shown.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even be too surprised if there was a little presentation, and maybe they announced like Werewolf by Night, since that one's pretty much done or something. I'm looking at it going like, what's coming out in like August and September that they need to promote they
Right.
need. And yeah, so there's a thing, but at least now with D23, we've got a bit of an idea of how that 4-day week's gonna, or that 4-day weekend's gonna work with Disney Plus Day, the presentations. I'm kind of glad in some ways that they've spread it out a little bit. You know, we got like 3 different presentations from the point of view of content for Disney Plus. The other actually works out quite nicely, I think. Also for us, I think Sunday means it's basically we can kind of relax a little bit more because there's less stuff for us to worry about. And I was looking at it going, oh, okay, well that's basically Saturday and Sunday done, and then Sunday morning you got the parks panel, and it's like the concerts. Like, I will go if I've seen everything. It's that kind of thing. If I've not seen enough of everything by then, but it might be a nice way of just closing off with some amazing performances. But yeah, I mean, I was quite happy with the way they're doing it. I think trying to do a presentation per studio was going to be difficult in terms of the logistics of trying to get the people organized, because then you got more panels, and then they're going to need to like get, you know, I think we have to go in, you know, usually like an hour or two beforehand to get lined up and get your space. So, you know, the logistics fact of how long these shows are, cleaning time, and all the rest of it between it. If they did one presentation per studio, it might be a little bit harder getting people. It's just a logistic nightmare. At least this way they've got 2 shows a day in that main hall.
Oh, it's still going to be a logistics nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Especially since this is the first year they're using the app sign-in. I'm sure it is going to go over perfectly, and everyone will 100% respect it. And they won't dash into the parks panel, despite the fact that everyone else has been, and thus like a whole bunch of people were given free park passes.
Well, I suppose the thing is, if you've been allocated it, then there is that kind of situation. They will be able to do it a little bit easier. Go like, you are not, scan your ticket. Yeah, you're not in here. Get out. And also, from the other point of view as well, unless everyone goes, oh, no, we've got to get, you know, we gave everybody the same access to it, and that's But I'm sure they'll work it out. But yeah, so I think it's going to be fun. We'll obviously do a little bit more speculation of what we expect to be seen a little bit closer to it. We will be, as I said, we're going to be at D23 this year, which is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, so that's D23. So yeah, anything else you want to add on that one? What you kind of jumped out at you from that idea?
Well, obviously the big ones, we already know what's going on there. I am looking forward to them announcing the smaller panels, because a lot of those can be fun too. I walked into one in 2017 that was literally just like the garden show. It was them talking about how they did the the sprinkler system and how they kept all the plants up. And I originally just walked into it just like, I just need a place to sit down. I'm just going to watch this. But then I ended up watching the presentation. It was really fascinating. So if you do go to D23, don't turn your nose up at the smaller panels. Some of them are very interesting, and they've got a lot of cool stuff.
I must admit, I was going through the schedule of the 2019 one the other day, kind of going like, what? And I was like, that kind of thing, like, right, if this was the panel for when we're there, what would I want to be doing? That I kind of like it was almost like a trial run, and you're like, well, I would probably just, like there was like a presentation for High School Musical. It was like, okay, well, I would have tried to have gone, and that one there was one for like. So yeah, you're gonna have a look and see what else is going on there. There might not be a Disney Plus stage the same way there was 2 years or 3 years ago. They might be doing something a little bit different, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. But at least now it's starting to come together.
The one thing that I did find interesting is that normally the video games get their own big one. We would normally see it announced at this point, and we did not see it, which I don't think doesn't mean they're not going to be there. It's either they're holding it back because we're in the Summer Game Fest, whatever's replacing E3 right now. So there might be some like Star Wars or Marvel announcements. I know Midnight Suns had a trailer last night. So they might be holding that stuff back, but they might also just decided, the video games don't draw in people the way the televisions and the parks do. So we're going to make that one of the smaller panels.
It would have made more sense in the days of when they used to make their own stuff. Now we're trying to logistically trying to organize everyone together. They announced a new Aliens game this week. They've announced there's a racing a Disney racing game has gone into closed beta this week. You've had the Midnight Suns, but that one's annoying because it doesn't make it look like it's a role-playing game, a turn-based game. It makes it look like it's an action game, but it's not.
No, it's like XCOM, which
Yeah.
means it's a tactical turn-based game, which is an interesting choice for a Marvel game. But we'll see what that one's like when that comes out. So.
Yes. Right, let's shift gears now. Let's now talk about Strange World, which is a brand new film coming out in November, and it's going to be coming out for Thanksgiving. Now, in France, it's actually going to be skipping cinemas completely. It's going to be going to Disney Plus. Now, I don't know whether or not it's going to be going to Disney Plus on the same date, or if they will just hold it back until it comes out for everyone, because I can't imagine it makes a good sense to put it out on Disney Plus on the same day, for piracy reasons and a whole host of other reasons. I would imagine they might want to hold on to it. The reason is in France, they have got some rather weird rules about they tried bringing in a new rule earlier this year, and Disney has not signed up to it. The idea was basically a movie would come out in cinemas, it would stay there for 4 months or 4 to 6 months exclusive. Then it would go to Canal Plus, which is like France's own streaming service. Then it could leave there after so many months, and then Disney could use it on their own platform for a couple of months before they'd have to remove it, where it gets sent to free TV for, I think, 18 months until they can finally get it. So it takes about 3 years from when a movie gets released until they can get full access to it. This is why only recently they got Aladdin. That's properly onto Disney Plus in France. It takes years. And Disney have turned around and goes, look, this is just we're not doing this. They are releasing some films in cinema, but they have said that they're just looking at this new rule and going, this is just not feasible. They're probably not making the same at the box office. And so therefore they're going to start skipping cinema releases for selected titles. I suspect it's how much is it worth at the box office to how much is it worth for them on streaming. They are saying that we don't want to do this, and they're saying we might do it with more titles. And as someone that, to me, the concept that I've just created this product and I want to sell it, but I have to give it to you, and then I have to give it to you, and then I have to give it to you, and then I have to give it to you. Oh, and then I get it back 3 years later. And I've had to pay you a little bit, and I've had to pay you a little bit, and I've had to pay you a little bit. Oh, and while I was at the cinema, I've got to pay them to make some TV series. And then when I got my streaming service, I've then got to pay to make some. I can see why you get to some point going, oh, well, hold on, this pie is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where, from a business perspective, you might be going, well, actually, is it worth releasing? How much money are we actually going to make off this? If we just put it here, we make less money, but we actually save all this other stuff going on. So, yeah, I've heard, people also saying, well, we need to protect cinemas. Like even the cinemas themselves are turning around and going, guys, this isn't a very good deal. Sort out the TV stuff and let us have the movie. Because it's like, they go, well, yeah, we're getting like screwed over because of the TV deal. And it's like, this is just French protecting their business, their business and, the local business, to the point where it's like, this is just unconsumer. This is just unbusiness. It's purely... It feels like something out of 20 years ago. It just does not work in the 21st century.
I think it's a noble idea,
Yeah.
Protect cinema. There's obviously a lot to that, but the French government or whoever passed this bill didn't really understand what they were doing. Even let's cut all the streaming stuff out. It has to be in theaters for 4 months is ridiculous. Most movies, the vast majority of movies, have like a 3-week shelf life in theaters. You get the occasional blockbuster that will continue to draw in revenue week after week, week after week. But most movies, they make their money, and then you get like 3 people watching them per week.
Yeah.
So are the theaters? Is it just they're exclusive to theaters, or does the theater actually have to dedicate screen time to it for 4 months? Because that's wasted money. Some movies are just not made for screens, etc. It really feels like they're shooting themselves in the foot with this.
Well, it's a bit like, if you could say this, like, to put this in like American terms, this is almost like saying, right, so AMC get it for 4 months, then it has to go over to Netflix for 6 months, and then then Disney Plus can have it for 3 months. Oh, and then we're going to send it off to not even, I don't know, CBS for 18 months, or PBS even. Let's send it off to PBS for 50. And then you'd be like, and then Disney going, could you imagine them trying to do that in the US? Of trying to go, oh yeah, we want you to do all of this for releasing a movie. It's like, yeah, there's only so many hoops a company will go through. Up till now, Universal and Warner Brothers and stuff have been very quiet on this because they're launching, HBO Max, Discovery, and also we're getting the other one as well. It's a little bit like they're going to be going, yeah, we ain't doing, Netflix going, we'll sign up to, yeah, but you don't release anything in cinemas. Doesn't make any. I was like, oh, Netflix have signed up to this. I'm going, but if they don't release any movies in cinemas, it's not really affects them, does it?
Netflix only releases movies in cinema when they want them to be available for awards. And they don't need to release it in France for it to be eligible to be part of the awards. They need it to be released in a minimum number of theaters worldwide, can be anywhere, and that's it. So they can sit there and go, yep, we'll do that. We're just not going to release any of our films in theaters.
Very, very strange. So I suspect it will probably arrive in France on the same time that everybody else. Now, they obviously released the first teaser trailer this week for the film. I thought it looked fun. I liked it. Kind of the adventure vibes, giving off like the 1950s. But I thought it looked pretty. Yeah, I thought it looked pretty fun. I'm definitely going to be giving it a go. There was very loose the fact that there was no mention of theater, no mention of Disney Plus. It's being kept very open. I suspect this will go to cinema, and I think it's going to do an Encanto 30 days thing, and then on for Christmas. I think they're going to do that exactly same thing again. Let Thanksgiving have the holiday, and then get this onto Disney Plus for the Christmas New Year period. As a big release. I think that is their. I think that makes a lot of sense because if they can make 100-200 million on an animated movie, that means they've covered all the costs, they've made some money on it, and then it goes on to become a bigger thing with the merchandise and all the rest of it. Generally, animated movies don't tend to go on and make the billions, the billion plus, and I don't think this one would anyway. So I think if we can make 100, 150, 200 million back, and then go to Disney Plus for Christmas, it would be a massive hit. That's my guess.
That sounds about right to me. And I think it looks like a lot of fun from the teaser. I'll definitely plan on seeing this one, but it would be a stretch to say this will end up being like a huge blockbuster unless it is truly like genre breaking phenomenal. And even with like good word of mouth, I'm still expecting it to do well, but it's not going to be Frozen 2. It's not going to be the live action Lion King
or
Encanto. I mean, if it's got a song as catchy as like We Don't Talk About Bruno, maybe it's got a shot. But
don't know. Moving on from there, this past week Disney Plus launched in 16 new markets across the Middle East and North Africa, becoming next week to a number of countries across Europe. So they got access to a number of movies and series like the Kardashians, Only Murders in the Building, Shang-Chi, the Toy Story, a whole host of bits and pieces. Quick thing, there is a little bit of an interesting thing with this release. It kind of follows what happened in South Africa, where they've actually got a hybrid app. So it's not the same Disney Plus app we've got here in Europe or in America. This is like a Hotstar version. So it's got it looks a little bit different. It runs a little bit different. It doesn't have all the same settings. Doesn't have all the same content but generally it can vary country to country anyway. But it's an entirely different app. And you have to log in with like your telephone number. And a lot of people have been upset about the fact that it's not the same Disney Plus. It's also meant in some ways that all like the Arabic isn't available on all the content everywhere else, which a lot of people have been asking for, which I think is bizarre that it's not available. You'd think you'd want to put that on to as many people as possible. But yeah, so they've got a different app, which is a bit strange. I don't know why they've done this, but those particular regions have got their own special version of Disney Plus, which is a little bit different. Which we kind of had an inkling when like South Africa launched, because it's almost like that was like a mini test to iron out any kinks before it went out everywhere else. But yeah, that was definitely an interesting thing for this week's release.
I think the core of it is that I don't want to say a lot. Some of the Middle Eastern countries have different morality laws than we do. And I suspect Disney wanted to make sure this was a different environment that they could work in and be less likely to cause an incident by putting things that not just objectionable to their viewership, but actually possibly illegal.
Yeah.
Not
yes.
that's great,
No,
but you know,
it's such a tricky subject because obviously if you know it's their countries, their rules, and if they want to play in that country and work, you know, they have to do it. And like everything, sometimes you know they've got to make small changes, little by little. I mean, I could say that what happened like with the WWE when they first started doing events in Saudi Arabia, they didn't have any women on the show. Now they have a few women on the show, and you know it's very slow. And I mean, there's no being by anything that everything's perfect there. I mean, there's a whole thing of them all getting stuck on a plane and couldn't leave until they paid the bill. But they've been making small steps in kind of improving stuff, but it takes time. But there's definitely an issue. I mean, you know, things like Love Victor and stuff just wouldn't be on there in some countries, unfortunately, because it's a great show. But that's again down to legal issues. But it's just be aware that if you do go, you know, if you go to Egypt on holiday, or you go to Morocco, or you go to Dubai or something like that, you might not be able to access Disney Plus in the same way that you thought you could do. And also goes the other way. You know, if they come to Europe or if they come to America, they might not be able to. I mean, it's just an issue. I mean, I've got to be honest. You know, it's I've traveled through Africa, and you know, me and my wife were looking at Dubai and stuff for a holiday recently. So it's just, you know, people travel, especially as things are going back to normal. We'll all just be aware of that one. Right. Also, yesterday there was some pretty big news in terms of the TV side of things. The TV chairman, Peter Rice, was basically let go by Disney. Different reasons for it. Some say that he wasn't fitting within the corporate culture of Disney. He got picked up when 20th Century was purchased by Disney, and he's been running pretty much the whole of Disney TV. So that includes like ABC, the Hulu originals, Freeform, etc. So he's been let go. He has been replaced with a name come up, and Dana Walden, who was the chairman of entertainment. So she's taking over the role. There's lots of speculation over why this has happened. He's only recently signed a $1 million deal, and I expect he's had a nice payout. He's left with a nice note. A lot of speculation that Bob Chapek didn't want him around because he was maybe going to be the one that was going to try and take him out. But yeah, very surprised. No one saw this coming. It was a huge shock amongst Hollywood yesterday, because generally no one really had anything bad to say about him. It literally was one of those things of everyone's going, why? He's been involved in 20th television for a long time. Again, we don't know quite what's gone on, but there's been a big shift around. Disney put out a statement saying that they've got full faith in Chapek. You know, we see how that works normally with sports managers and stuff when that tends to happen. What happens next? But yeah, so there's been a lot of movement around at the top end. I mean, generally what this does mean is on a day-to-day basis, it might not mean a lot to, you know, the big chief going, but, you know, like Dana was behind a lot of major shows, Only Murders in the Building, The Dropout, being at the top. You know, she gets a lot of say in what we get to see, you know, and helping with the whole program, getting everything together. And all of that content obviously feeds down onto Disney Plus. So if there's something at the top, it will eventually trickle down, and things that come in from this change could then go on. You know, all things could be issue. We don't know what the problem was, but it's just be aware that, you know, there was a big shift at the top.
Yeah, so two quick things about that. First, the only thing that we have heard about it is that it is not related to him doing inappropriate things. They very specifically said, look, he's not doing things to the secretaries or anything like that. This is not one of those, because that's where the most brains go the minute you see someone suddenly being stripped of a high-ranking position. They were very clear that it's not that. And two, even though this is a huge change, it will change the direction of programming and things like that. These changes take time. You know, so the decisions that he made will probably still be in place for like the next 6 months minimum, probably closer to a year. And then we'll start to see her changes and what she decides to bring to it. We'll see behind the scenes. They'll make the announcements, but you won't actually see the content change until 2023. maybe even into 2024.
Yeah, it's very weird. Also, it's kind of common normally that rather than kind of getting shivved out like this, they kind of go off with a deal, and they get a production company, and they kind of make TV, and they kind of, they're still technically making stuff, and they get kind of sidestepped. This was just gone. Very strange, but nevertheless, let's jump into some reviews. But before we do that, just a quick bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, you can support us on Patreon and YouTube channel members. This here helps support the channel and helps cover all of the costs of all of the software that we use, all the bits and pieces that we need to make all of this content. So big hello and thank you to Paul, Daniel, Elliot, Aero, Caleb, Red Marsman, Cody, Chris, Jacob, Darren. We've also got Lauren, Sarah, the Juice, and Andrew. And also then big thank you and hello to Raphael, Adam, Dana, Ricky, Dave. We've also got Manmoud, My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, and also a big thank you to Sarah for your support. So let's jump into it. So we've got a lot of stuff that's been released this week. So we've got Obi-Wan Kenobi, we've got Miss Marvel, we've also watched the Orville. But also, before we get into that, this coming week we're going to be getting Love Victor season 3. So the entire third season is dropping on the 15th, and in the US as well, they're getting seasons 1 and 2 at the same time. So getting all 3 seasons. This is the final season. I have watched the season already. On one hand, I enjoyed it. I was a bit sad when it got to the end, and I went, "Oh, that's it." That's a bit sad. It was a bit like, I kind of, especially I think after like watching it for 2 days straight, I was just kind of, getting into it. And then I was thinking, right, well, actually, if you put the 3 seasons together, it's barely one traditional like CW season of like 20 plus episodes. But I got to the point of going, yeah, this kind of maybe was the right point. All the teenagers are now 30. They've there's that kind of thing. And I don't know what it is about, especially with American dramas, high school dramas. But having 28, 29-year-olds playing 18-year-olds, you start kind of going, yeah, you're looking at way too mature for this kind of role. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but a nice series, a nice way to go out. There's a few little bits here and there, but I don't think it was as good as season 2. It wasn't quite as edgy as season 2, where they knew they were on Hulu and they had a little bit more freedom. But I'm really glad it's coming to Disney Plus in the US. Finally, after 3 years, they finally sort of got the guts and put it on there, because it should have been on there from the beginning, because it originally was a Disney Plus original, so they chickened out and sent it there because alcohol. And if you're listening to this, alcohol. I've got my fingers like, alcohol for teenage minors, which is odd, but yeah, so it's on there. I enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the first 2 seasons, definitely check it out. If you've never watched Love Victor, this is a great time, because you're getting all 3 seasons at once. Perfect binge time. We've said before, kind of picks up in season 2 where it gets really good. Season 3 is pretty much just closing everything off and kind of getting everything kind of good. In some ways, it's nice when they know it's ending, because you can see it lining up for that, rather than, and they could come back to it if they wanted to, but it's nicely wrapped up in a little bow. And everyone goes off, so that's kind of the way it is. But yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I obviously have not seen it yet, so I won't comment on that. But I always do prefer when television shows are given a chance to end properly, where the showrunners are told this will be your final season before they write the season, before they start producing it, because that allows them to end it and put the nice little bow on it, wrap up their storylines. And give it a satisfying ending, because I think we all hate it when you get invested in a show and then you get to the end of season 3 or season 4, it ends on maybe a cliffhanger or a great hook into the next one, and you're like, oh, it got canceled. Yeah, well, okay, that sucks.
I think it should be. I think US law should come in. If France can do what it does, US law, you have to. If you cancel a show, you have to finish the story, or at least wrap it up. Be it another episode or 3 episodes or something, just to finish them off. I remember watching, I think, the reboot of V, and we never, or you get to a cliffhanger and we just never find. You never know what happens. It's like, yeah, great. At least kind of do the finale.
I know Netflix has come under fire for this a lot. Disney has in the past. They've been better about it in recent years, letting shows finish off properly, but There are plenty of shows that they have that.
I mean, like Turner and Hooch. I mean, we need at least another 5 seasons before they go out on a date. You know.
I mean, let's not speed things up too much here. You got to let them fully flesh out the awkwardness of not asking each other out. But
for 12 episodes. Right, let's now jump into Miss Marvel. We got Miss Marvel this week. We got the first episode. What did you think of it?
I enjoyed this quite a bit. There weren't any specific problems with it. I really love the actors and actresses involved with this. The story, pretty solid. Avengers Con was a little bit weird. I've never been to a convention that looked like that before, but it was a lot of fun. Fairly predictable, but overall, I think this is a great start to the series.
My thing is, I'm gonna be honest, because I've seen this week's episode as well coming up on Wednesday. I can't remember where one ended, and I was gonna watch it again, but I just haven't had the chance. And yeah, I mean, I just thought this show was delightful. It was charming. It was fun. It's unlike anything we've seen in the Marvel, and it's different. I really enjoyed the whole aspect of having a Muslim family and the Muslim aspect to it. I thought that really added extra layers to this story. I really enjoyed that whole thing of it feeling different. I felt like it was being portrayed properly. If this was a movie, you just never would have got a lot of that stuff. That stuff would have just been glossed over in like a couple of spits, and that would have been the end of it. This series really allows for that whole aspect to be stretched out. I thought this was a really good, fun series. I mean, the whole thing, like with the music and the young stuff. She's a teenager. She's a teenager of today. Not a teenager of when we were younger or when you were younger. It's of today's generation. She's a fan of Marvel. She's fully engrossed in it, and it's just lovely. It is a really. I want to see where it goes, because I was a little bit stretched on the idea of having recently played the Avengers video game, which is her origin story of, they took some aspects to it and they've done a little bit different. Obviously we get, you get to the end of episode 1, you've really got nearly no idea where this story's going. Even really by episode 2, you don't know where it's going. It's kind of hold out on the villain for a little bit. Because in some ways in episode 1, that's what they needed to do, was just establish her, where she is, and basically how she gets her powers, and that's been set up. But yeah, they were able to take their time with it. And I think that's what Disney Plus does it right. I enjoyed it. I literally, I wouldn't say it's my favorite of the ones I've seen so far. I think the intro to Moon Knight, I think that was far superior. I enjoyed that so much more. WandaVision was kooky, but a little bit different. But I do actually think maybe Miss Marvel I like more than the first episode or 2 of WandaVision. But I really enjoyed like Loki. I really enjoyed that one. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Hawkeye, yeah, okay, but it's where's the series going to go? I mean, it's got a lot more room to give yet. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to the rest of the series. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm very excited. I've not seen the second episode yet. I'm looking forward to that on Wednesday. This does end with her basically just getting back from Avengers Con and starting to realize, I've got these powers. I really enjoyed the stuff with the family, though. Again, this is, the TV show allows us to breathe, allows us to learn who these characters are. You don't have to rush through it. The parental figures get a chance to develop as characters. You see their personalities. I love their dynamic, honestly. I know her mom is overbearing, but she's so much fun. The actress with that is doing a fantastic job, because she could very easily be like, oh no, you're a terrible character, I hate you, stop messing with Kamala's life. But at the same time, you're looking at it going, yeah, I get Kamala's point of view, but I really like you anyway. So,
but it's also that kind of this constant trend with teenagers and their parents. Of the parents don't want them to do stuff because they don't want to risk it, and it's not worth it to them. What the kids are interested in, it's like, it's not important. It's not worth the risk. Obviously, the kids want to do what they want to do and rebel against it and all the rest of it. So being a little bit older, you can see it from both sides much easier than. But I think it's good this is on so many different levels. I just really enjoyed it. I wanted to see where it goes. Just learning bits and pieces of. Yeah, it's all fresh, all new. I understand why they had to launch it this week. Obviously, with the Middle East launch, it was obviously important that it was out for that. They're also releasing the episodes in Pakistan in cinemas, like they're doing 2 episodes at once. Over the 6 weeks they're getting it because they've not got Disney Plus there. It's just like great. I just wish Kenobi was out the way now. I be honest, it felt a little bit like that thing of everyone being a bit torn. And I mean, it's great. We're at a situation we have got 2 great shows on at once, but I really feel like, man, if we'd got Kenobi on Star Wars Day, it would have been done, and Miss Marvel would have had room to blossom as being the main Disney Plus thing. And that's my only. If that's the worst thing you say, yeah, it does get a little bit overshadowed by Kenobi because of the 2, but we've still got another 2 more weeks yet of double episodes. So, but yeah, no, Miss Marvel for me, I think I rated it a 4 out of 5, which I thought was, what I've seen so far.
It's definitely a solid start. The only complaint that I really had about it was when they knocked down the Ant-Man statue as part of the cosplay competition. That thing rolled around the entire convention. It was picking up momentum rather than losing. I'm like, this is the villain of the story right here. How's the Ant-Man head's just going to show up throughout the series, just still rolling places? What's going on here?
Yeah, to be honest, I have been cheating a little bit on Marvel this week. I've worked my way through nearly 2 seasons of The Boys, and all I've been hearing is about this scene with like an Ant-Man reference for season 3, which I'm not going to get into here. But yeah, no, I have been watching another Marvel or another superhero series. It was a bit deeper. Well, DC ain't doing anything decent at the minute, so just want to check out The Boys.
Actually, the Peacemaker series on HBO wasn't that bad.
I watched an episode, and I love John Cena. So I just kind of got to the end and went, because I watched the Suicide Squad recently as well, and I was just like, yeah, it's all right. And I did. The fact I watched 1 episode and I will go back and watch the rest of it. But I've been really enjoying The Boys, so a little bit different to Miss Marvel.
Yeah, just a little. I think Peacemaker took a couple episodes to get going, but it did actually end up grabbing once you get past those. I want to eventually see The Boys. It's not very high on my priority list, but it gets so many rave reviews. I'll probably get to it at some point.
I don't know why I started watching it. I just did. But we're currently, I think we're on episode 5 of the new Stranger Things as well. We're slowly working our way through that like every other night. And we got the staircase underway as well. We got a couple of shows that we're watching right now. Me and my wife, we watched the latest episode of the Kardashians, getting ready for the finale of the first season next week. I've really enjoyed the Kardashian series. Me and my wife watched it together. It's completely unrealistic. I was saying to my wife years ago, it was like everything's just so much drama with what they do, but it's so cheesy. But I don't know what world they live in, but it's fun watching it. It's just been a blast. It just feels quite refreshing having that one on there.
It kind of reminds me, I saw a review for the Downton Abbey movie, the most recent one. I haven't seen the movie itself, but the complaints were like, these people live in an entirely separate world from what's going on, and their problems are so trivial. I'm like, literally, that's literally the point. They are completely separated from the world. They're living in this little fantasy world, but they have the money to do it. And it's like, it sounds like it's kind of Downton Abbey is the ancient Kardashians.
Yeah, it's just watching this whole episode of just like, here's my brand new plane. I've never been in it before. Do you like it? And like, yeah, okay. I'm still there going, what do you do?
No, that is what they do. They show off the plane that they bought with the money by showing off the plane. So,
but yeah, I'm going to be thoroughly in the Kardashians camp for future seasons. I've thoroughly enjoyed this series. And it's giving me an excuse to watch it. So me and my wife, the Big Sky returned for season 2, the second half that started up here in the UK on Disney Plus on Wednesday. So we watched the latest episode of Big Sky. This is basically after the mid-break. I don't know why it's taken so long to get to the UK, but so we're back to watching Big Sky every week now on Disney Plus. And this is when you start getting like multiple shows a week that we've been watching. which has been great. And also we had a new episode of the Orville.
Mm-hmm.
And did you get a chance to watch that one?
I did. Though I'm just going to really quick. I also watched Under the Banner of Heaven. Looking forward to talking about that with you when you get a chance to see it.
Yeah, unfortunately,
since we were mentioning stuff we'd also been watching.
Yeah, it's not out here until like the 27th of July, and then we're getting the whole season at once. Hopefully, yes. So, yeah. So I'm like I said, it's nice having all these different shows and stuff to watch. Like with like Pistol recently and stuff. But what about the Orville? What do you think of this episode?
This was an interesting episode because they just we're going to ditch the comedy and we're going to do horror for an episode. We are literally just going to take Aliens, the movie Aliens, and we're just going to drop it into the Orville, but we're going to make them spiders instead of xenomorphs.
Yeah, it was a bit there was horror elements in there. There were again no kind of the odd little side quip, but that was about it. It's just gone full blown Star Trek now. We're in full blown like serious mode. The special effects are up. I mean, to be honest, I was sat there and I was like, he's dead, and he's dead. And it's like he walks into the room with the boys and he ain't making it out. I've never seen him before.
He's literally wearing a red shirt. That I'm certain that was not an accident. He was wearing a red shirt. You're like, yeah, that dude's dead. And then the one guy goes into the conduit system. You're like, okay, yep, he's going to encounter an alien. And well, he's
the only thing is, I think they actually would have looked more scary had they not have gone full monster. Like half monster would have been a little bit.
Like when he had the whole thing going on half his face while he was in sickbay, that was a lot scarier than the actual spider monster.
Like when they then changed the second guy and he just like spewed all over his face and then just like it was too quick. But I mean, again, this series, there is that one thing I did love the fact that he's going to make a speech to the whole figure. He goes, "And may the force be with you." It's like, oh yeah, it's such a, we saw it in the trailer, but I did laugh again.
Yeah. Well, they set it up too. Like, I forgot to have a speech, but just wing it. You're fine. Like, yeah.
But no, I'm just really enjoying the Orville. This is another great series. It's just a shame Disney are not promoting this more. Over here I've not seen any promotion for it. Very little. I don't think is going on. It's just a shame because they spent some money on this show. It's not like it's got a bit of a budget behind it and all this, but I'm really enjoying this. We're definitely getting to that point now of like I said, 5-6 shows a week that I'm currently watching on Disney Plus here in the UK. I mean, that's and they're good quality shows. And I'm not sitting watching The Big Fib anymore. We know.
These are proper shows, and I think for the Orville, they're still kind of suffering from the idea back when it first launched, so season 1, that it's Seth MacFarlane, so it's going to be Family Guy in space, and it was even then it was not that. It was Star Trek with a little edge of sarcasm and kind of a wink and a nod to the TV. Yeah, this is some weird stuff going on, but it was not Family Guy. It was not the usual Seth MacFarlane humor. And of course, as it's gone along, it's become more serious. It is, as you said, basically alternate reality Star Trek, and Star Trek's been doing plenty of its own alternate reality stuff, so might as well be Star Trek at this point.
Yeah, no, just a really good series. So we're going to be talking about this one every week for the next 3 months. Because without a doubt,
I think 13 episodes. I think is what it is. Maybe.
Okay, so let's shift now over to Kenobi to finish off. What do you think of this episode?
Enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was one of the stronger episodes of the series so far. So I would rate it lower than the other episodes, but we're still at a higher bar than most series are at. Just so we're clear about that. I will be a bit negative on this one. But again, still, it's really good quality. It's telling a much more interesting story than you would expect from a television show. There were just some blips in this episode that didn't quite.
It's really funny because I watched this one and I got to the end and I went, oh, that was fun. That's fun Star Wars. Bing, bada, boom. Moved on. And I'm seeing all these complaints about it, and people, and friends and stuff are like, we're having a chat, and I'm like, and they're saying about this and problem with this, and I'm like, man, I must have just had my Star Wars goggles on that when I watched this episode and was just like, stormtroopers, lightsabers, I'm fine. It had everything that I needed from Star Wars. It had Vader, it had lightsabers, it had the Force, it felt like classic Star Wars. And I just loved it. I thought it was a really nice episode. It was simple. It was effective. Yes, it's cheesy. Yes, there's some elements to it which well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we're on a space platform on an ocean with Jedi Knights fighting, and it's just like, just let's be honest, let's just throw realism out the way at the way. Yes, the whole thing with him using the Force and the water and all the rest of it, and the fact that they were so pissed off that the entire thing got wrecked because he just opened the window.
Well, you shouldn't build your base underwater if you want to be able to open windows.
Yes. I enjoy it. I mean, it was that whole kind of thing of him rescuing. It was a little bit faster than I was expecting. I mean, it's quite a short episode, and they kind of wrapped it up quite quickly. But yeah, no, I thought it was great. It was a kind of a nod to A New Hope, but the other way around. With him, yeah.
Well, I like the idea of Third Sister kind of being the one who introduced the idea of him putting a tracker on the device to show where the rebel base is. That obviously was part of A New Hope. So I didn't care about the window scene. I thought that was fine. The fights with the stormtroopers were fine.
They can't hit a guy in the middle of a room with standing still.
I will say that is a complaint that I have about the Disney shows and movies at large. That's not specific to Obi-Wan. Yes, it's been a long-running meme. The stormtroopers can't hit anything, ha ha ha. But Disney actually leaning into it as a joke kind of undercuts it. And yes, there was that one scene in season 1, Mandalorian, with the scout troopers trying to hit the can, and it was a great scene. It was freaking hilarious. But they've been leaning into it more and more. It's like you're actually undercutting the effectiveness.
I didn't mind it so much with him defending against the people at the front, and he's like blocking it and using the Force and the lightsabers to deflect them. It was the ones behind him, like, we're gonna wait to shoot, and it was like, you guys would have been better just focusing on the front, because it just made a little bit silly. But that was a little bit of an issue. But I just thought overall it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was silly Star Wars. It had all the elements that I liked about it. There was things of it which you could question, but it was fun. I didn't really overthink this one.
Yeah. So the two complaints that I have, that the Stormtrooper one is Disney's direction overall. That's not specific to Obi-Wan, and it applies to the First Order as well. So the two complaints I have, Third Sister is talking with the traitor, and it's obvious she knows the traitor. She's being BS too, and she just lets it go. Like, she's like, I know you're lying, and I'm in complete control in this situation, but I'm just going to walk away now. I'm like, why? Not that I want the character to die, mind you, but it doesn't make sense for Third Sister to walk away in that case.
It was almost that kind of thing. She knew she was lying, but she didn't know what she was lying about.
Yeah. I don't know if you're lying for this or lying for that, but it's like, but then it's like, Kenobi is on the platform. I'm like, well, okay, you blatantly just caught her in a huge lie. Why are you just walking away from her? We know if you were Vader, she would have just been bisected by a lightsaber. Again, not that I want the character to die. It just doesn't make sense that the character got to walk away from the situation. It was just too absurd for her to survive it. And then the second one, as much as I love the speeders, the snow speeders are one of my favorite vehicles in Star Wars. That entire sequence just looked ridiculous.
They look too small. They look really small.
They were too small, which, okay, there are variants. There are different types of speeders. I'm willing to go with that. But, like, I'm talking more the special effects in the scene. The special effects were just like, what is going on here? It looks like we're playing Flash Gordon with this stuff. And not intentionally like you were in Mandalorian with the creatures that they wrote on looking intentionally stop motion as a tribute. This was more like, you guys had no budget left for this, did you? This whole sequence looks utterly stupid, and it took me right out of the show in that moment, which should have been a great moment, because again, the Snowspeeder is one of my favorite vehicles, right behind the X-Wing in Star Wars. I should have been absolutely like, this scene is fantastic. We're seeing the Snowspeeders, they're tearing up this place, and I was like, I can't get over how bad the effects are in this shot.
Yeah, I mean, as well as that, you'd have expected some like TIE fighters or something to kind of be in pursuit or something, not just hit them with a box and take one out. Which I did like. I did at least like the fact of just like, you just use the Force to take one of them out. But and I will say they did actually get some emotional bits out of that piece, because normally, you get the huge starfighter bit in Star Wars in the movies or the other shows, and there's
And then it ends because they blew up the Death Star or they blow up the Dreadnought or whatever, and everyone's like, "Yeah, woo, we won. We're not going to worry about all the people that died and all of our friends who are gone." And in this one, we actually get the surviving pilot going, like, "I just lost my friend and he's not coming back," and actually seeing the consequences, which we normally don't see in a Star Wars movie or show.
My only issue so far is like they've replayed that whole thing of Leia being kidnapped twice and had to been rescued twice. I think it might have been a little bit better to have done that one once and just spent longer getting to it, or having a better escape with Vader. I don't know. It just feels like you could have combined the two of them, because it just feels like almost like a rerun of what we'd already seen 2 episodes ago. But that's, again, it's kind of nitpicking. I'm enjoying the series. I think it's a lot more fun than The Mandalorian. I don't feel like I'm in the let's look out for what toys arriving today. Which action figure did Dave Filoni find in his basement that he wants to add for this episode? We don't seem to have that in this one the same way.
Well, there was the the landing sequence where the trader shows up in her ship, and there's a whole bunch of other ships around. You're like, okay, that one's the transport, that one's the. But other than that, I agree. They do have the one black stormtrooper that's not the Death Trooper from Rogue One. It was more of like a cross between stormtrooper and security personnel, but it doesn't get like the scene to shine like Mandalorian season 1. You got the flame trooper guy show up and you're like, oh, there's the action figure because we're focusing on him for a second. No, these guys were just part of the stormtroopers. They didn't have that moment like action figure there's that's going to be the new Lego set in 3 months or whatever.
Oh yeah, speaking of that, there's a Lego set from last week's episode. It looks awful. So generally, overall, I'd probably give this one maybe a 4 out of 5. I think that would be it was fun, had some flaws, but I enjoyed it.
Again, we're still talking about a tier above most shows will ever reach, but I thought this was one of the lower episodes of the series, and it sounds like my complaints were different than what the internet, because I have not read anything about what the internet has to say about this. So they all drowned. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I actually kind of like that scene, honestly.
Yeah, especially with them just floating. Well, nevertheless, that is this week's episode. We'll be back next week, where we'll be talking obviously about Miss Marvel, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'll also be sharing my thoughts on Lightyear, which will be coming out next week. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Later.
I've got my tickets for Lightyear, so we'll both be talking about it.
Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.